Imagine waking up one morning, opening your window, and instead of the gentle chirping of sparrows or the cooing of pigeons, you hear the faint electronic whir of propellers and the high-pitched hum of lithium polymer batteries. The trees outside are filled with drones, hundreds of them, sitting on branches like slightly confused mechanical pigeons. A robotic raven tilts its camera head toward you, scanning. Welcome to a world where every single bird has been replaced by a drone. Let's get the obvious question out of the way first. Could we even pull this off? There are about 50 billion birds in the world. To replace all of them, you need 50 billion drones. That's a lot of propellers, batteries, and firmware updates. You'd also need a massive, always-on wireless network to coordinate them, unless you want your artificial starlings to accidentally crash into each other mid-flight in a spectacular display of mid-air slapstick. And you need power, enormous amounts of power. Birds run on seeds, worms, and the occasional French fry stolen from an outdoor cafe table. Drones run on electricity. If every bird-sized drone used as much power as your phone's battery in an hour of flight, the daily global charging requirement will be somewhere between a small country's energy grid and a Bond villain's doomsday reactor. Okay, but let's assume somehow you've overcome these pesky engineering challenges. The first big change you'd notice is sound. The natural world soundtrack, warbling thrushes, trilling canaries, even that annoying seagull scream, will be replaced with a constant buzzing, like living next to 50 billion flying electric toothbrushes. Nature documentaries would have to be redubbed, and instead of David Attenborough quietly narrating over birdsong, you'd hear him shouting to be heard over the noise. Here, the mating drone performs a complex aerial display, charging cable dangling elegantly to impress a nearby USB port. The ecosystem consequences? Oh boy. Birds are an essential part of many food chains. They eat insects, tons of insects. In fact, scientists estimate birds consume 400 to 500 million tons of bugs every year. Without real birds, mosquito populations would explode. You might think your drone replacements could be programmed to swoop down and mechanically vacuum up mosquitoes, but that adds complexity, weight, and the nightmare scenario of an insect-filled onboard storage compartment. The drones might be able to mimic predatory patterns, but they wouldn't digest anything. They'd just be flying bug collectors that need emptying. Gross. Then there's seed dispersal. Birds help forests grow by eating fruit and scattering seeds far from the parent plant. Drones aren't going to poop seeds. Well, they could, but that means you've just invented flying seed cannons, and now your drones are shooting organic projectiles at high velocity. Also, bird droppings, as unpleasant as they are, provide nutrients to plants. Drone droppings. Probably just bits of plastic or the occasional loose screw. Let's not forget migration. Millions of birds travel thousands of kilometers seasonally. To replicate that with drones, you'd need a global logistics system tracking weather, air traffic, and battery charging stations. Imagine the chaos if the software glitches mid-migration and your entire flock of artificial geese tries to land in the middle of an international airport runway. Also, real birds can handle rain, snow, and high winds. Your drones? They'd spend half the migration grounded with weather delay alerts, like the world's worst airline. Culturally, humans would lose a lot. No more poetry about nightingales or seagulls guiding sailors. Instead, we get poems about firmware updates, propeller replacement kits, and low battery warnings. Pigeon racing would become drone racing. Birdwatchers would become drone spotters standing in forests with binoculars, whispering excitedly. Ah yes, that's the rare DJI Scarlet Macaw model. Look at the smooth gimbal stabilization on that one. And here's something you might not expect. Without birds, garbage and food waste in cities would pile up faster. Many birds, like crows and gulls, act as unofficial cleanup crews, eating scraps and even some carrion. Without them, you'd either need to train your drones to pick up trash, picture a quadcopter trying to carry a sandwich bag, or deal with more rats and pests. Yes, your shiny mechanical nature upgrade might actually cause a rodent apocalypse. Weather prediction could get weird too. Some scientists study bird flight patterns to predict storms or seasonal changes. Replace them with drones, and suddenly all you're tracking is whether someone forgot to charge them last night. Farmers who rely on birds to control pests and crops would have to invest in expensive robotic pest control fleets, or worse, pesticides, altering agriculture worldwide. Of course, there might be a few advantages. Drones wouldn't spread bird flu. They wouldn't build nests in your chimney. They wouldn't wake you up at 4:30 a.m. with a loud mating call outside your window. And if you're allergic to feathers, congratulations, your life just got easier. You could also theoretically program them to deliver small packages, take aerial photos, or even put on coordinated light shows instead of migrations. Northern Lights? No, just the annual Google Drone Festival. But the power costs, environmental impact of manufacturing billions of drones, constant maintenance, and inevitable software crashes would make this system ridiculously unsustainable. And aesthetically, it just wouldn't feel the same. Birds are unpredictable, graceful, and alive. Drones, no matter how advanced, will be predictable, mechanical, and prone to falling out of the sky when their firmware update fails halfway through. So, what if you replaced all birds with drones? You'd end up with an endless buzzing sky, runaway insect populations, broken ecosystems, piles of uncharged machines, and the occasional midair collision showering screws onto your car. In short, it would be a lot like the real world, but louder, buggier, and somehow more expensive. And in the end, you'd probably wish you just left the birds alone.